Hello and welcome to Dead Air's Halloween special. And I shouldn't be the only one on screen right now, though. It looks like we're missing George. George, are you there? Where's George?
Welcome to my new lair. Good evening, everybody. This is not Miss Biggleworth. This is Miss Pennyworth, the evil haunted doll. And we are here at Full Spectrum on Dead Air. Good evening and welcome. I couldn't do this impersonation all night. There's no way I could do that. It hurts. It hurts my face and my voice. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to a very special Halloween edition of Dead Air Full Spectrum. Don't forget, guys, we are simulcast with KGRA Digital Broadcasting, also on KGRA Facebook and YouTube. And if you see Ken DaCosta knows how to do makeup, look how beautiful he is right now. Oh, that's not Ken DaCosta. That is our very special co-host tonight, Melissa St. Hilaire. You guys remember, she's been on with us before. She is a 21st century witch. She's joined us tonight. Mr. Ken DaCosta is on assignment trick-or-treating with his grandson. Somebody has to do it.
Yeah,
somebody has to do it.
Assignment, you know what I mean?
I have maneuvered my diabolical plan to surround myself with some lovely ladies tonight. And Melissa's not the only one who's joining us at this point in time either. We also have an incredible talent. You guys all know her. She has been, broadcasting so many different shows, including our good friend Andrea Perrin over the years. Out of the West Coast, same as Melissa, Sheena Metal. Good evening, Sheena. How are you?
Hi, it's beautiful to be here with you all. How are you?
Doing great. Wait, are you in your boudoir? Where are you right there?
I am. I'm in my bed. Are you all seeing my Ouija blanket? And there's my headboard with some Halloween treats on it. How about that?
Nice.
Yes, I am. I often broadcast from my bed. It's kind of my thing. It's very Hugh Hefner of me, but I love it.
I love it. I love that blanket. I'm having blanket envy.
I know you are right now, right?
Yes.
Sometimes I move it around with my body. It's like Ouija meets Twister. In the middle of the night, I contact spirits just by rolling around on it naked.
That's kind of scary for the hubby with the yes, no, yes,
exactly.
No.
Exactly. It's my version of Pilates.
It'll work. It'll work. Thank you for joining us tonight. Again, this is a special night. Everybody that's joined us in the chat, welcome everybody. As usual, if you're joining us for the first time, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget also to smash that thumbs up and hit that reminder bell, letting everybody know when the upcoming content on Dead Air Full Spectrum is happening. But we're going to get to some exciting topics tonight, some scary topics, and some pensive things, as this particular ensemble cast is going to continue to grow throughout the night. Thank again, Melissa St. Hilaire, for setting so much of this up, contacting a lot of these wonderful people and saying, you got anything to do on a Sunday night? And Melissa St. Hilaire herself, she goes, no, it's just my wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have a question.
Yes.
Who decided that Halloween would be the day you get married?
Well, that was firstly me. It was 23 years ago. And, we were a couple of spooky kids. And, we talked about getting married and like, oh, what day should it be? And, most people go for like the June wedding. But I was like, well, my favorite day of the year is Halloween. And he was like, mine too. Perfect. Let's do it.
It was an interesting choice. Certainly, there's no way the hubby's going to forget the anniversary.
Hell no.
So I mean, it's still early on the West Coast. When we're done with the show, is that when you guys are going to go out and celebrate?
Well, he's a movie gaffer and he has a really early call time tomorrow. So unfortunately, this is my exciting anniversary right now. But that's okay. It's all good,
Well, you got the Ouija bedspread, so you can't complain.
Exactly. I'm happy.
And Sheena, how about you? How you been busy?
Yeah, always busy, right? And always busy this month. I'm at home tonight. It's my one of my cat's birthday, her 18th birthday. The other cat, it's his first Halloween, so I'm sure that's going to be exciting. And my girlfriend and I are entertaining her 18-year-old daughter and their friends. So later I may do a little witchery for the youngins.
Ooh.
Bringing up the next generation of light worker, just bringing them up, man.
Nice.
It's got to be an interesting time, especially when you have multiple capabilities in this field. I mean, you start off with an interest in the field, but it's based upon your own normal intuitions, the experiences you had prior to having a fascination with the paranormal, not just necessarily Halloween, but what we do interviews and talk shows about. So for you,
Sure.
Sheena, as somebody who gets to this time frame, is there, I know for me, I feel like once October 1st hits, there's an energy change within me and from the people that I talk to during that time. You get the same feeling, both of you?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. I think it
Absolutely.
really starts on the 22nd of September when the autumn equinox hits.
I agree
And
wholeheartedly.
it
Didn't
really
even think about
goes
that.
until, really until Yule on the 21st of December.
Mhm.
It is, for me, the most fantastic time, the most fabulous time. I was out last night. I know that's shocking, right? That's a whole topic. I was out last night. At a wine bar with some family, and I love the way that Southern California smells in the fall. I'm an East Coast kid like Melissa. I'm from the Northeast, so I'm from Connecticut. So that's a whole different smell that I love. But I love the way that Southern California, especially by the ocean, which is where I live, smells in the fall. It's like this magic energy in the air. And I think there's such an incredible spiritual energy that comes up out of the ground in the Los Angeles area anyhow. And
Yeah.
then this time of year, it's just off the charts. So I love every bit of it. I mean, and it's all overcast today. It's like a perfect Halloween night. So Halloween's my favorite holiday. I know we're supposed to say Christmas, and I love my Christmas. And I'll probably lose my Irish card for saying it's not St. Patrick's Day, but I love everything Halloween represents. And as a person of Irish descent, this is very much a spiritual and an ethnic holiday for me, being the New Year. So I wish it happened all the time. I start to get sad, like you get at Christmas, that it's ending. I'm like, but everything's not going to be scary tomorrow. So,
Right.
But for us, it's always scary, right, Melissa and George?
Yeah, it's always scary, but it's funny because I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but like my whole life, I've always looked forward to Halloween and this whole time of year. And then this is my first year where I've had the super wicked, busy, witchy year, where like people are asking me to, do rituals on stage and do ghost hunts and like all these fun things. And I'm just like, my head is spinning, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, where did the month go? Like, I've been so busy. I just blinked and it vanished.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
true.
again, we're going to talk about that, Melissa, what you just actually did and attended last night. But I wanted to ask Sheena, what did you do during this month? I mean, besides the incredible schedule you have with your podcast, with the work that you're doing, I'll put your information up top. But any ghost hunting involved with that, or going to haunted houses?
I do a lot of clearings and house clearings, and I don't do them all in person. A lot of them I do remote because I do them for folks all over the world. I did a lot of clearings this month. I think that the energy as we get to this day, which is today, right? When the veil is the thinnest, whatever normal activity is in people's houses kind of really kicks up, and it just gets completely off the charts. And people just can't take it anymore. It's fun. I grew up in a very active haunted house, as you know, George, in a kind of an Amityville Conjuring type home outside of Baltimore, Maryland,
Right.
for 4 years in my middle school years. And, ghosts are really fun until they're in your home, and then they're really not fun anymore. And so I think people get to the point where it's just not fun and it's not a novelty, and they need their houses clean, especially when kids are beginning to get sick and older people are getting affected, and animals are disturbed, and so many different things can happen. So this is kind of the time that I'm like, who are you going to call? Everybody calls me to clear their house, and I love it because when I was a kid, I didn't know how to help myself, and I didn't know how to help my family. And my mom, who was also at that time a psychic medium in the closet, she didn't know how to help us. So part of my big sort of give back in the spiritual and paranormal communities is helping folks that live in haunted houses, because it's scary if you don't know what's going on, and if you're not tapped into the community, and you don't understand why every time you open a kitchen cabinet, a can of peas flies out and hits you in the head. So I think it's really important that people get the help they need. And this time of year, I think it just becomes too much,
And what side of the argument do you lean more towards when people tend to say, and this is going back when I was still going to these para conferences and getting a chance to visit
Sure.
the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, or one of my favorite ones more than anything else, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. When we would have groups of people who've been in this field for a long time, they mention the fact that they do see a common presence of increased activity in these 3 holidays. So from here all the way through to the new year is when it
Right.
seems people are getting more of a domestic visit with regards to spirit
Right.
versus your normal commercial locations. Do you subscribe to that idea also? Those energies tend to be more active during this time, as if revisiting family?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think part of it is the time, right? Like we were talking about earlier, Melissa and I were talking about, it's the autumn equinox to Yule, to the winter solstice, is the most active time. And going back to ancient times, right? And why Halloween is a thing. Halloween was a holiday created around the religious, well, at the time, there was pagan religion, but their religious environment, and what they noticed and couldn't explain in the spiritual world, which was, why was this a night where everybody could see the spirits? Why was this a night where more activity was happening? So they created Halloween in order to combat the fear that they had. We do the same thing now. So yes, it definitely is a lot more this time of year. But I also think human beings are more open to it, George, because I think during the Halloween, everything that goes from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, right? It's a lot of partying. It's a lot. So you're open, because nothing opens you up like a 6-pack of beer. It's a lot of being close to family. It's a lot of being very emotional. It's a very emotional time for people. So human beings, a lot of time off. A lot of people have time off. The year kind of slows down at work. So it's not, people let their guard down. They let that shell that a lot of people have around us all the time, they let that wall come down. And when the wall comes down, wow, there's all that paranormal activity I've been shutting out by worrying about my end of the year books. So I think that, that's why. It's another reason it's more active. People are more open during this time.
Yeah, very well explained.
I have a question for you, Sheena.
Sure.
I'm just curious. What do you think about, so you know how when we talk about like poltergeist activity and how, there is sometimes when it seems like it's more the person who's creating it. You know what I mean? Do you think that also gets more active during this time of year?
I do, and I'm kind of weird on that. I'm one of those people that I believe a person co-creates it with what's already there. I don't
Yes.
necessarily believe a human is a poltergeist. I
Yeah.
believe that a vulnerable human allows a poltergeist to come in, and they're almost sort of the channel. So someone who's
Yeah.
sick, someone who's old, somebody in puberty, somebody on the autism spectrum, somebody who has a mental illness that's unchecked and unmedicated or treated, somebody who is grieving with a broken heart. These are all vulnerabilities that allow spirit activity to come in. So do I think teenagers make a living room, couch catch on fire because they got their period? I don't necessarily believe that, no. But I do think that when you're vulnerable, then it's very easy for spirits to come in and ride along, little hitchhikers. And sometimes it's little trouble stirrers, right? Little trouble causers. I always say that when I talk to my clients and they have attachments or they have spirits bothering them, that you have to think of the spirit world sort of like you think of the human world, in the sense that there are wonderful spirits that are here to help you. And then there are troublesome spirits that are just here to sort of be a pain in the butt and see what happens. And then there are spirits that are just negative and not good at all. And I think those little trouble causing ones sort of fall through the cracks and people forget about them. And we dismiss a lot of those behaviors as something a person was doing. And certainly that person makes a contract with that little spirit, either consciously or subconsciously, to allow that spirit to come in and do that stuff. But I don't necessarily believe poltergeists are people.
And what would you like say someone,
Agreed.
because you mentioned doing the house cleanings and stuff.
Mhm.
If someone came to you, like say I came to you and I said, oh my gosh, my teenage daughter is seeing her dolls spin around in her bedroom.
Right.
What would you do to help?
I would say just run. Just get in your car and go. Just run. Pull a Lutz family. Get in the car. Don't even take your underpants. Just go.
But press record on the camera. Press record on the camera first.
First do that and then run. I would say that, that you, first of all, check with her, find out what's going on with her. Let's get her healthy. And at the same time, let's get the environment healthy. Let's, cleanse the place, clean the place, put out the candles, the crystals, the incense, feng shui, if that's your thing. And then let's work on what the actual activity is in the home and getting rid of that. Because I think a lot of people come to me and say, I have a spirit, can you get rid of it? And okay, I can do that, but you need to do the work for it not to come back. In the same sense that if you are consistently running yourself down, eating poorly, not sleeping, not drinking enough water, you can get an antibiotic to make that go away. But probably if you're not taking care of yourself, it'll come back. And I think you sometimes have to think of spirit activity as like a really nagging, reoccurring UTI. Like, it's just, you got to take care of yourself or it's not going to go. And that's the part people don't like, right? People love going to the doctor, getting the antibiotic. People don't love, you got to take the vitamin C every day. You've got to drink water. You've got to get sleep. You've got to not stress. And it's all the same factors. It's interesting because I always draw it in sort of a triangle with the interlapping like an Irish triquetra. We have a spiritual immune system, we have an emotional immune system, and we have a physiological immune system. If you're not taking care of yourself spiritually and emotionally, it will affect you physically. And if you're not taking care of yourself physically, you open yourself up for spiritual things to come in and penetrate that shell, that core that keeps the bad spirits away. And then you wind up with something in your house you can't get rid of. So can I get rid of something in a day? Well, sure. Is it going to come back the next day? Well, probably. It depends on you. It depends on the work that you're doing to not let it come back. It's kind of like if you have a relative that won't go away and then you ask them to like go to the grocery store for you, and while they're gone, you change the locks. You kind of have to change the locks
Or a toxic
and let
relationship.
it know it's not welcome to come back,
Right.
Same as a toxic relationship. And, you
Same
forgive
thing.
and they're going to change. I know they're going to change this time. And it
Sure.
goes back to the same redundant situation.
Sure,
That's
absolutely. Yes. That spirit is not going to change. I guarantee that.
no, by no means. That is a great explanation. And everybody in the chat is thanking you for that also. It's, and again, people who are out there that, I guess they have a fascination with the paranormal, maybe just around Halloween. Most of our chatters, I can tell you, they're with us all the time. They're with us all throughout the year, but have not really had to deal with that understanding when you're dealing particularly with residential cases, which I know you both are very familiar with also, is
Sure.
it's difficult because sometimes you're fighting against the stubbornness of an individual who just won't see what's directly in front of them.
Yeah.
And you're trying to give them the right path. This is what needs to be done, and they fight you tooth and nail on it. And you can only give them so much guidance, and you kind of have to step away. For both of you on this question, now, Sheena, you first. Has that situation come about where I throw my hands up? I've done everything that I could. I've even referred other people so that they like another doctor's referral, and they're still not taking it. I can't do anything more for them. I wish them well. Has that ever come about for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do a lot, not only in
Me
the
too.
paranormal, but in the spiritual world, I do a lot of energetic cleanses and chakra balances for people. I mean, I do quite a few of those because evidently a lot of people's chakras are kerflooey. And it's a lot of people will say to me, will you do a cleanse on my husband? Will you do a cleanse on my son? He's having problems. And I do. And everything's fine for 5 minutes, like with the house cleanses. And then the next day they go right back. And it's the same thing. Getting better is when you're working with a spiritual healer, or you're working with a clergy, or you're working with a doctor, it's a co-creation between you and them. And you have to be responsible for your own spiritual health. And that's whether you're having something done to your being or whether you're having something done in your home. And so oftentimes it's that one person that doesn't really want to get better, that doesn't want to get cleansed, that doesn't want to get healthy. That is the person who also secretly is not okay with the house getting cleaned, because they're sort of enjoying living in their own pain, George. And if you like being unhappy, then a nasty spirit in your house is going to give you just what you want, because it will bring you a lot of unhappy. And I saw that as a kid with my dad. My dad was a super unpleasant guy. And he didn't have a lot of friends. He was an engineer. He liked robots more than people. And we lived in this house that was like the guest house to hell. And he denied, you girls in this house. It's just a bunch of stupid you girls. He was a lapsed Catholic, so he had become an atheist. Nothing. Crazy. You're crazy. Your mother's crazy. You girls are crazy. You get together and drive each other crazy. So when I was in my late 30s, early 40s, I was part of a paranormal documentary. And I brought it home to show my parents for Christmas. And for the first time, my dad saw robots, tape recorders and cameras and all his little robots that he loved, actually catching spirit activity. And right after we finished watching the show, he said, well, when we lived in this house, and my mom goes crazy, right? She's like, what? And she just starts freaking out. He's like, every night at 3:00 in the morning, this guy that looked like a Franciscan monk would walk through the wall, sit on the end of the bed and stare at me. And then he would get up and walk back through the wall and he was gone. But I didn't think it was paranormal. So my mom is, waving her hands. And what did you think it was? And that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So he was actually having as much of an actual, active spirit encounter as she and I were, although his guy seemed a lot nicer than what we dealt with. But he got the benevolent monk and we got, the hellhounds. But every single night this was happening. But he was telling himself it wasn't paranormal because the paranormal was something that he didn't believe in. And if you have somebody who is refusing to accept what's going on in the home, George, then you have somebody who's not going to help get the home healthy. And I think we see that a lot, right? When we go in to investigate or to clean a house, there's always that one person who's not believing. And guess what? The spirits are in the corner going, hee, 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 because that's the person that's going to keep them coming back.
Funny how you talk about it that way. And I want Melissa to chime in here too. But as you know, this weekend, big event at the Conjuring House, a return of the parents to the Conjuring House. And I've heard the story countless times. As you know, Andrea and I traveled many times to these different lectures and events. And we had a lot of road conversation. And the one thing was that all the women had to be dealing with the torment of what was going on in that home. But Roger had somewhat of an arousal relationship with Mrs. Arnold. This was the strange part about this, is that, he did not see anything threatening in what was going on. So he kind
Right.
of shrugged it off to the side. It was no big deal. Funny how it all seems to fall in that same category. All you need is that one weak link to
Mm-hmm.
allow that
Mm-hmm.
cycle to continue over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Melissa, you said something that you've dealt with this before also, where you had to basically surrender to stubbornness.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, I've even had to surrender to my own stubbornness, to be honest.
Sure.
Haven't
You know,
we
I mean,
all?
right? And I've had a lot of clients that I've had to deal with things, but but really, my biggest block has sometimes been my freaking self.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago, I had this amazing opportunity where I got to go to Italy for the first time, and I have ancestors from there and what have you, and I went and I asked to go to Pompeii because it's freaking Pompeii, and that's I love places like that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But in my mind, it's like I kind of thought like I can just put my mediumship and all that stuff to the side and the witchy stuff, like I'm just a tourist, I'm on vacation. And, I'm walking around. And of course, as I'm walking around, I start getting these physical sensations. And I'm sure Sheena will immediately recognize when I say what they are. But, I would get this heavy pressure on my chest. And then I get this like weird headache pain, right in the base of my neck and the head skull,
Right.
And then just this incredible like sadness. And I would get flashes too, because of course that's, part of being clairvoyant, you see things. And so I'd have these flashes where I could suddenly I'd be looking at the destroyed Pompeii and then the ruins. And then for just a split second, I'd see like how it looked like when it was wonderful and beautiful and everybody was happy and loving the place. And then in another split second, I would see the chaos. I would see it would look like brownish snow and people crying and screaming and running and families trying to find each other and knowing that some were working and some were home and trying to get to each other. And I'm in Pompeii. I'm having all these experiences. I don't have one lick of protection on me, nothing, and and then I thought, well, I could leave this place and I'm going to be fine. I get home back to LA and I immediately fall into this dark depression where I can barely pull myself out of bed. I don't, and I'm also a writer, and writing is like my life's breath, and I couldn't write a word. I couldn't function. I didn't want to clean. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to do anything. And after about a week of this, of avoiding all my friends and not replying to messages, I had a friend who was like, honey, we need to talk. And my friend Rochelle, she's a Reiki master. And she's like, girl, you got to come over to my house. And I have to perform basically an exorcism on you because you brought home an attachment from Pompeii because you're an idiot and you didn't protect yourself. And I was like, oh no, Rochelle, you're right. So, I take that example and I always share this with my clients. If I notice that, a block, or I notice someone's not taking something seriously, or they're listening, but they're not doing the thing that I tell them that they need to do, I'll tell them this story and say, listen, you don't want what happened to me to happen to you. So, don't make my mistake.
Yeah, most people will be more than accepting to get an attachment from the Second World War. You have to go back to 900 BC. That's awesome. That's reaching for the stars. Speaking of reaching for the stars, another star has joined us at this time. Anybody recognize this beautiful lady? Rainbow glitter star. Renee Watt, how are you? Welcome and happy Halloween.
Thank you. Happy Halloween. Sorry I'm late. My parents are visiting from Phoenix, and the day just kind of stretched later and later and later. So
it's okay. At least it's not your wedding anniversary. That's the important part.
Yeah. It might be around my divorce anniversary. I'm not sure.
Tell everybody in our chat exactly who you are and why we have you on tonight.
So my name is Renee Watt. I am a professional psychic, witch, astrologer. I have 4 different horoscope columns that I write. So I'm always creating content to just like help people connect with the mystical realms. I also have a podcast called The Glittercast, where I talk to different, professionals in my field, but I also have done really cool celebrity ghost ghost story interviews. So I talked to Cassandra Peterson about the haunted house that she had, and had a really cool episode with Dita Von Teese where we talked about past lives. So I'm always doing something in this realm. So I think that's why I'm here tonight.
And also, I just have to say, Renee is my astrology expert. Like whenever anything is going on in the, like when, cause I start like, I'll pick up vibes and what have you. And I'll just be like, I feel kind of strange. I'll check in with myself. It's not me. I check in with the people around me because maybe I'm absorbing their energy, and they're like, no, I'm fine. I don't know what the problem is, Melissa. And then I'll reach out to my other psychic friends, and they'll be like, yeah, I'm feeling funky too. And then I'm like, okay, it's time. I've got to check in with Renee. Okay, what's going on with the stars and the planets? Because clearly something's happening. And she always
I was like, it's because the moon's in Gemini. It's always when the moon is in Gemini. Or I'll just text Melissa before she even reaches out, and I'm like, hey, if the energy is crazy today.
Yeah, it's not like she had to reach up on a shelf, and she knew already. She knew already.
She's like, boom, that's psychic.
That's incredible. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. And what I wanted to do at this point in time also was bring up. Again, we're around that time frame, Halloween, and people get interested in doing paranormal investigations. And you had an interesting experience just last night, Melissa. Tell everybody where you were at. And she's frozen for a second. We'll come back. There we go.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. This is how a paranormal conversation starts.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yes.
Exactly. Because once we start talking about paranormal, that's when electronics are going to go in and out of the
Yes.
Spirits have arrived. Yeah.
Yes. Welcome to the chat. But yeah, so I was at the LAPD museum last night, and a little while ago, or a few months ago, I guess now, time means nothing to me. I did this live streaming event with the Dark Zone Network at the museum, and
That's right.
so just last night we had sort of a special Halloween Eve ghost hunt where we had some people that basically guest investigators got to join us, and myself and Rick McCallum sort of walked them through. And I had kind of a strange experience that I just launched right into it.
Well, we'll give a couple of examples first so you guys can get a setting where they were at. This first couple of clips, and our good friend Rick McCullum was with us there too, right?
Yes.
But check out at least the environment, and then we'll get into what had transpired.
Walter, I want to thank you for your service, being the first motorcycle person to actually pass away in service. So it's probably Richard.
There was a female voice. There was a female voice. Hello. The female spirit that I'm hearing, that we're all hearing. Yes. Are you the one who got the gun? Yes.
Can you turn the volume up?
Yes.
And a quick shout out to Misha Walden, who was kind enough to give me these clips to put this all together. Now you can set this up, Melissa, what had transpired, and then I will play the audio clip.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So it was towards the end of the evening. Things were sort of winding down. Like earlier, we had a lot of activity. We were able to get a lot of it on the instruments and what have you. And at a certain point, we're in this one small room on upstairs. And it was pretty, we had the lights dim, and none of the electronics were doing anything. So I thought, well, let's pull out the dowsing rods and see if they pick up anything. And we started to sort of ask, who's here? And I asked if bugs were there and things like that. But somebody, and I don't remember now who it was, but somebody started asking about Sharon Tate. And, as we were sort of talking about her, all of a sudden I just got overwhelmed with these just extremely strong emotions. And at one point I even kind of felt like my stomach felt like it was, pregnant, like bigger than it's supposed to be. And then and also my lower back started to hurt. I had to kind of like flop over forward. Like I couldn't even sit up straight. And then all of a sudden I just got these like horrible stabbing pains, like right in the middle of my belly. And, even though I know about Sharon Tate, I haven't really read much about what happened to her. I haven't read the details because I'm so sensitive that when I read stuff like that, it just, I don't know, it gets in my brain and it doesn't go away, Yeah. So I didn't really know the details of what exactly transpired with her. Right. And so I was like, did something happen to like right in the center of their belly? And of course, you probably all know what happened to her. But then they told me at the time, and I just started crying. I tried to stop it. Like I tried to fight myself because I didn't want to be like, oh, hi, I'm crying in the middle of a paranormal investigation, But at a certain point, it's not you anymore. It's their energy and they're taking over you. So that's what happened.
What would have been incredible is if somehow we captured that moment on audio, Wait a minute. Courtesy of Cheryl Plum, we do have that audio. And what's interesting, although I don't expect you guys to time it, you can go back at the end of the show and go back and listen to this segment here. But on this recording, about 2:45 in, you actually hear an EVP in the middle of the recording that says, help me. And then about a minute later, at 3:45, you actually hear, I'm so cold. If you can hear it, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it in the first pass. We all have headphones on, so possibly. But here's the clip. It's about 4 minutes long.
Yes.
Have you had someone say that Sharon Tate was here?
Yes. Yeah.
Would you ask if Sharon Tate, if she's still going to the David Owen house?
Alan, did you get that?
She's saying yes.
The David Owen house is right next door to where all that nonsense happened.
Oh, okay.
And I've been to his house many times, and Sharon's made herself known.
Yeah, I'm getting chills now as you talk about it, and that usually is a sign of yes.
I did get a mommy in the kitchen of his house. Was that your baby?
Oh.
Yes.
Do you guys know, I mean, you all know what happened with the Manson family.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's really strong right now.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. She's so sad. Yeah, it's really strong. She's so sad. It's okay, Sharon.
Yeah, why do you linger?
Anger.
Are any of the people that did this still alive?
Yes. There's a woman. She's angry at a woman.
She's in prison still, right?
Squeaky. She doesn't know her name. Long hair. Blonde, dirty blonde, long hair.
Saying no.
Squeaky.
She's not angry at a woman.
Sorry, my feet are going to sleep.
Saying no.
I think the one she's talking about is Patricia Credwinkle.
Oh, okay. Is that a yes on that name?
Yes.
Okay.
I can smell something here. Almost like that musty smell again.
Mm-hmm.
Like a light mildew kind of a smell.
Like a wet towel or something?
Yeah.
Melissa, are you okay?
Yeah, she started to back off. It just got
like she was in my body for a moment, and I felt pregnant. Like, and it was very strange and unpleasant.
Maybe that's why you were having back pain.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Oh yeah.
And I was also getting a pain right in the middle, like it was like being stabbed in the middle of my belly button.
I never think to ask about her here.
I gotta stand up.
What's that?
I didn't ever think to ask about her here.
Was she stabbed in the belly button? Do you know?
Yeah. Repeatedly.
Repeatedly? Okay, yeah. Now she's Sharon. Please back off. I can feel it, and I don't need to feel it anymore. We got the message.
That's the
Yeah. She's.
How can we help you, Sharon?
I might need to get some water.
I feel like she feels like she failed as a mother.
Yeah,
Like there's a lot of guilt.
There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of
Excuse me, but it's not your fault.
no,
Honey.
like missing out.
Yes. You guys were.
What a tough
Wow.
energy to connect to.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really intense. And even just listening to it again, I started to tear up a little bit because I just started to go right back into that place. And, you know, and when we were there live, I didn't hear the, I didn't hear that I'm so cold, but this time I heard it very clearly. And as soon as I heard it, it was like chills just ran through my body. It was so intense.
It's again an incredible capability, and we're going to talk a little bit probably right after the break about collective consciousness. You and I were talking about this, Melissa, earlier today, that I want to address because it's unbelievable when you have that ability to tap into that connection. And there are more people out there, Sheena and Renee, I'm sure you can agree, than people realize that intuitiveness is it's something that's innate in many people, if not all of us. Now, there are people out there, we've tried this with collective consciousness, who have a chronic problem called aphantasia. These are people who cannot imagine. They don't have the capability. If you say, imagine yourself on the beach and you're looking at a sailboat on the water, they can't do that. They can only refer back to their own memories, but they can't create. That's why I've tried some experiments and say, what do you see in your mind? I don't see anything, just black. It's actually a physical disability in some people called aphantasia. Blows my mind. So I would imagine also there are people out there who don't have that psychic connection, that intuition, that capability out there. But in all of your experiences, and I'll ask you all the way around, starting with Renee, Melissa, and Sheena, percentage-wise, how many people do you run across that have this ability and are not even aware of it?
I mean, for me, I feel like, you know, my industry is to connect with people who believe they are intuitive or believe in psychic ability to a certain point. So for me, the percentage is huge, but this is also the profession that I work in. But I also think that there are people who are intuitive that discredit their own intuition because either they don't believe in it or they don't know what to look for. And so, I mean, I think the perfect example of what this might look like is, you know, Melissa, when you guys were doing the paranormal investigation, she felt physical symptoms of discomfort in her body. And some people don't realize that, like, there can be an intuitive connection there. So, like, if you walk into a room, you know, into a building and all of a sudden your stomach is killing you, there can be an intuitive connection there. But even small things where you're thinking about your friend, and then they text you 2 seconds later, which happens all the time with Melissa, just by the way. But I think that, like, I think most people are intuitive. I think that being a person who has emotions automatically makes you intuitive on some level. And for me, I honestly think that there is some level of intuition with everyone, because I think it's instinctual as well as intuitive. And so I think that the more open you are to it, the stronger it will come through, because not only are you aware of it and able to acknowledge it and strengthen it and control it, but it also, you know, being aware of it brings that belief through as well. So it just depends on how open you are to your abilities, which I believe, again, makes them stronger.
Sheena, I'll go to you first before we go to Melissa,
Yeah.
because I want to add something to this also, which is you are a broadcasting guru. You've been doing this for such a long
Thank you.
time and so many different mediums.
Yeah.
I need to ask you this. I was thinking about this earlier today. Wi-Fi. I sit around the house and my TV's on Wi-Fi. My phone is on Wi-Fi. It's just energy going throughout the air. Why is it so difficult to believe that we are not able to do that with each other also, even if it's on a subconscious level, that
Absolutely.
human Wi-Fi is always being picked up by one person or the other?
Absolutely. All the scientific skeptics should realize that the internet is basically collective unconscious. And that
Perfect.
if we can all tap into each other that way, we can all tap into each other without actually having to have a router and a modem. We just don't trust ourselves to do that. Many other animals
Amen.
have collective unconscious. Elephants are famous for it, right? I'm a huge fan of elephants. If an elephant dies in India, an elephant mourns in Africa. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, because I think that collective unconsciousness inspires the idea of family throughout their species. And I think the idea of humans as one human family, that's something we're really kind of missing. And my mama used to say that human beings were just smart enough to be dangerous. And I think that's part of the thing. We think we're above that, so we shut it out. We all have the ability, and there's so many things in our brains that we have the ability to do. I mean, telekinesis and psychic stuff and empathy, and probably we can fly, astral projection, but we shut it out. We don't believe in it. It's not for me.
And it's
we're
buried under so much noise. It's buried under a lot too.
Yeah. And
That's what
we're
makes
so
it
tied into this human world and human and earthly things. And I think even sometimes people they claim to be extremely spiritual, but their spirituality all revolves around this earth plane. And I always tell this story that I had this friend who would always tell me how spiritual she was. Well, I do this because I'm so spiritual. And I did that because I'm so spiritual. Well, then she saw The Secret, so she decided to make a vision board. And she came to me with her vision board, and she's like, this is how I'm going to ascend to the next level of spirituality, is with this vision board. And, God love anybody's vision board and what's on it. But her idea of ascension to spirituality was to manifest $1 million, a Maserati, Fabio as her husband, and a pair of rollerblades. Now, I'm not quite sure where the rollerblades come in, because you could probably just go to Walmart and buy a pair of rollerblades. But to her, that was what a spiritual person was: a millionaire who drove a Maserati, was married to Fabio, and also was the proud owner of rollerblades. So I think oftentimes we take our spirituality and we're still trying to cram earthly stuff into it, like money and aesthetics and power. And that takes away from that idea of the collective unconscious, which is we should think of ourselves as one and not think of ourselves as separate entities competing with or fighting with each other. And I think if we just let that go, some of those walls would come down, those three-dimensional walls would come down, and we would suddenly realize that we had all these gifts. Because like Renee said, intuition, that, guess what? If you've got great intuition, you've got gifts. Empathy. I mean, a lot of empaths, and probably everybody here can identify with this. When we're young, we just think we have a bunch of stuff wrong with us. And then we realize we're feeling everybody else's stuff. So, hey, why does my stomach hurt? Why does my head hurt? How come every time I go here, I have a weird pain in my arm? And we think something's wrong with us. And then we realize we're just picking up everything around us. So
people have this horrible definition of individuality and uniqueness. Uniqueness is a collective, and that's what they just don't understand. If you guys see now on the bottom on the ticker tape is our telephone number for the second half of the show. So you guys want to line up if you have any questions for our guests and maybe a reading or two. I'm not going to say that we're definitely going to do it yet, but we never know. But I wanted to give this opportunity for Melissa to also chime in on this. Melissa, go ahead.
Yeah, totally. Well, because I teach psychic development and mediumship to people at the Green Man store in North Hollywood, I I believe everybody is a psychic medium. I truly do. And I've had arguments, you know, with other psychic mediums, not these two lovely ladies, but with others who, you know, try to say, no, you know, we're special and we have this, you know, unique ability and gift or what have you. And, you know, that's fine. I like to look at it kind of like artistic skill. You know, everybody can draw, but maybe not everyone can draw like, you know, Picasso or something. But, you know, we can all take a pen and put it in our hand and, you know, do a little doodle. And so, I think everybody has that ability. It's just, you know, some of us may be, you know, born with it a little bit stronger, or maybe we're just born into a family that encourages that for us. You know what I mean? And so when I'm teaching my classes, you know, I have people who come to me and they're like, I have no psychic ability whatsoever, but I want to take a class because I want to try. And I'm like, honey, you have it. Like, it's there. And I promise I will pull it out of you. And then I take them through all these exercises that I've learned over the years and tweaked and created my own and what have you. And it's so amazing to see someone at the start of a class who claims that they have no abilities whatsoever. And then I take them through exercises. And the exercises are, you know, I believe it was Sheena mentioned the noise. And you know, that's my like number one exercise. Freaking meditate, you know, like find a quiet place, turn off your electronics, turn off your phone, turn off the TV, shut everything out, and try to just sit there and listen. And I feel like, you know, like we are so wrapped up in the material world and the day-to-day and the mundane, you know, we have this constant noise and we're worried about, you know, maybe getting kids to school on time, or maybe like cleaning our house or scooping kitty litter or whatever the heck it is. You know, we have a ton of things like bombarding our brain all the time. And so, you know, listening to spirits or even just our own psychic intuition, it gets, you know, smushed way, way down there. And so what I like to do is teach people to like quiet all that out, and I'll take them through guided meditations to sort of get them to that you know, that point. And then you see them at the end of the class, and I have these cards. They're called Zener cards, and you know they use them in Ghostbusters, which was like my favorite movie as a kid. And you know, it's like a star and a triangle and things like that. And at the beginning, you know, they're not getting any of the cards right, and by the end of the class, they're getting all of the cards right. You know, just after, you know, sitting and being quiet for a little while. And so I don't know, everybody has it.
Yeah, I always say that psychics are just empaths who have trained.
Yes. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Just learn how to control it. You just meditate and control it.
Well, and it's a spectrum like everything else, like Melissa said, right? I mean, it's everybody can run, but not everybody's an Olympian. So everybody has different abilities and amounts of that ability, and also everybody has different willingness to tap into it and willingness to let go and tap into it. And I think like everything else, it's an exercise in surrender and release. You have to let go so that new things can come in. And part of what you're letting go of is your skepticism that you don't believe you can do it, or you are that. You know, and then like Renee said, there's, you know, people that like to think, oh, I'm so special, look at me, that maybe is trying to convince people they don't have it. So everybody will just think I have it, so I can sit in my tent with my crystal ball and charge $1. You know what I mean? So, you know, be careful of anybody who's trying to tell you you can't have gifts, you don't have gifts. That's my thing, but it's not for you. In any profession, but in ours as well, anybody has the ability to do what they want. I encourage my clients to get oracle cards, tarot cards, you know, take a palmistry class, you know, work on past life regressing each other. Yes. Get out there and do it, because it's a muscle, and the more you use it, the more that it happens. When I first started admitting I was a psychic and came out of my own closet, I didn't think I was a medium. I thought ghosts followed me around in locations because I was marked from living in that house as a kid. And then one day I was driving in my car, and I looked over, and there was a deceased Sphinx cat sitting in the passenger seat, started harassing me about, you know, you want a Sphinx, you're going to get a Sphinx. When are you going to get one? And it turned out it was a client's deceased cat. And that little thing, sometimes I still look over in the car, and he's like, got a cat, but no Sphinx, huh? So, you know, I became a medium basically because a cat bullied me into it. But it's, you know, sometimes the more you work and the more you use that muscle, the more things you discover you have.
We're going to follow up on that. We got to go right to break right now. But on the second half, the phone lines are open. I know you guys had some questions in the chat. Call in, ask those questions directly with our wonderful panel this evening. It's a Halloween special, Dead Air Full Spectrum. We'll be back with the evil section in the second half. Stay with us, guys. We'll be back on the other side.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The On Air Live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
Welcome back, guys, to the second half of our Halloween special, Dead Air Full Spectrum. Don't forget, we are also simulcasting KGRA digitalbroadcasting.com, of course, Facebook and YouTube KGRA, not to mention the Dead Air Full Spectrum on the Facebook. You guys can check it all out. Chat room's open and the phones are open. I'm going to put those numbers up there and bring back our wonderful guest tonight, Sheena Metal and Renee Watt, and we have one other joining us at this point in time. And if we did not get a copyright strike, I would sing it, Jackie Blue.
Hi.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome, Jackie.
Hi, thanks.
You know, let me explain something to you right now, Melissa. I'm the man. Okay, I'm in charge of the show. No one else runs this but me.
I think I need to banish you is what I think I need to do.
What?
Bye, George. Now it's ladies' night.
Now it's my show. And that's how witches manifest. So I wanted to bring Jackie on really quickly because we mentioned past life regression, and Jackie does past life regression. So Jackie, do you want to talk about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I am a certified hypnotherapist and a life coach, and I specialize in past life regressions. That is one of my favorite things to do. In fact, I just gave somebody a book on past life regressions today. So it's a lot of fun to explore that, but past lives can also heal traumas or fears and phobias and different things that we carried over from another life into this life. So if you have any like unexplained fears or phobias and things you just don't know where it came from, like if you have a fear of drowning, but you've never almost drowned in this life, that could be past life trauma. And exploring that can help to relieve a lot of things. It can also help you with discovering relationships and relationship issues that you have with somebody in this life that could have gone back from a past life. So I love to guide people through these. It is absolutely one of my favorite things to do. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I don't really know what else to say about it.
I'm curious, how did you discover it? Like what got you into it?
When I was 13, my mom had the book Many Lives, Many Masters on her nightstand, and I picked it up and I read it and I became obsessed with it at 13. And then when I was in high school, just for funsies, I would do past life regressions on friends, and I would ask them like, hey, would you humor me and just let me read this transcript on you, because Brian Weiss had included it. This was, before the internet was what it was. You couldn't Google and find past life regressions. That I don't even think Google existed when I was in high school.
Right.
So the internet was like still pretty brand new at that point. So Brian Weiss had this transcript in the back of one of his books. And I asked my friends like, hey, can I do this on you? Would you be cool? And all of them were like, yeah. And then to my surprise, they would come out of it and every single one of them would like be so excited to share what their experience was. Like nobody was like, oh, I didn't see anything. Everyone was like, oh my God, that was amazing. And not all of them were believers in this stuff, but it was really cool to see that kind of experience. We had, I had a friend in high school that was kind of like, if you remember that 70s show, was kind of like Casso on that 70s show, who was kind of like just, that kind of dumb guy. And he comes out of it and he starts talking about the Roman Colosseum in great detail without mentioning the Colosseum. He was just like, the way he was talking about it, he's like, they were going to feed me to lions. And he was like freaked out. And I was like, oh my God, I know exactly what you're describing. And it was amazing because this was somebody who didn't even know about that. Like this was not somebody's history about that. This was a total stoner kid who knew nothing about anything. So to hear his experience like really convinced me like, wow, we're onto something. And it was a lot of fun. So now I do it professionally. Back in high school, I did it for fun. And now I do it professionally. And it's a lot of fun. I still enjoy it. It's one of my favorite things to do. When people book past life regression sessions, I get all excited because I'm also interested in hearing what their story is.
Right. And I think, that's good that you brought that up because, one of the reasons why I do readings is because I'm forever fascinated by, especially mediumship readings, like who am I going to get in touch with and what information am I going to get that they can validate, or that, my client, maybe I'm providing closure or what have you. But when you have those moments, and I'm sure you can all relate, when you have those amazing moments where like, I remember I was giving one reading and it was right around Christmas time and I kept getting a Christmas tree in my head. And the person just sat down right in front of me and I'm like, immediately spirit is going, Christmas tree. And I'm like, it's freaking Christmas. Of course, Christmas tree, and then I say Christmas tree and she starts crying and she's like, my grandma just passed. Christmas was her favorite holiday, but so you immediately know that you've connected, you know what I mean? But I also want to say, you mentioned that you used to do this for free when you were younger and now you do it professionally. And I just want to throw this to everybody because I think you can all say the same things. I know that I did this for free for many years before I ever even remotely approached doing this professionally. Renee, I see you nodding.
Yeah. On recess, I got my first tarot deck when I was 10. So on the playground with my tarot deck.
And Sheena, how did you get into it?
Well, my mom was a psychic medium, so it was around me all the time. But she never did it professionally because she was too, I don't know, she was a Scorpio and had secrets. So everything was like very covert. Like she was a teacher and a therapist and, secretly did psychic readings on my friends, but we never talked about what they were. So I started doing, I did it my whole life, and I've been in radio for 27 years, and I did it unknowingly through radio. And then I started consciously thinking that it was time, and my mom said it was time. And then after she died in 2016, like literally an hour after she died, she was like, okay, kid, now it's yours. And I thought, well, wait a minute, you never did it, but now I have to do it. And growing up in the entertainment business, I was scared that like they would ride me out on a rail because I was now saying I was a psychic, and everybody was so wonderful and embracing. And now that I do it full time, and my practice is 3.5 years old, it's really what I probably should have been doing my whole life. I don't believe in regrets or accidents, but it really, everything I've done in my whole life led me to this. And I've never been happier than I am right now. So it's wonderful being able to help people and counsel people and not have to give up my entertainment life. I get to have that too, which is fantastic. But it used to be, this was like my insides. I say now I wear my underwear on the outside because this was always my inside, and now people see on the outside. So, every once in a while I get a what kind of from somebody, but haters gonna hate. What are you gonna do?
I can completely, George is Googling.
You can't find the real secrets on Google.
No. That's just, you only get little bits and pieces on Google, but maybe if he's, nice and apologetic about that whole like patriarchy thing, maybe we'll let him come back into the coven, right? Because that's what we have going on now, is our own little
exactly.
We have to donate to a women's charity, and then we'll think about it.
Exactly. So Jackie, I wanted to ask you, now I've never had a past life regression session. Have Sheena and Renee, have you ever had past life? I'm sure you both have.
No, I've been looking at Jackie, but we've just never set up a time. We've talked about it, and then we're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Let's do it. And then you can share your experiences with your own audiences and me, because I love hearing about it.
Right. And so Jackie, I wanted to ask you, what can you talk me through, like what happens, like if someone, because a lot of people might not know what that even means, and some people are scared of hypnosis. Like I was for years. I was terrified of the concept of being hypnotized because you see, like, when you're in high school and they bring in like the gimmicky hypnotist and you squawk like a chicken and whatever, and I was always like, I don't want to do that. Like, come on, man. A little control freak in me doesn't want to like have my mind like taken over by somebody else.
Totally.
And so not too long ago, I went through, a little like dark night of the soul moment. And I was like, maybe I need to, call up a hypnotherapist. And that's how I found Jackie. And so she sort of made me feel more comfortable with the idea of hypnosis, because I was super scared of it. And I think there's a little part of me that's kind of scared of getting past life regression. But I've talked to Jackie, and she and I are going to set up a session, and we're going to record it, and we're going to put it on my Instagram, American Witch 13, through my currently on hiatus podcast. But I'm going to bring that back up, and we're going to do a session. But can you talk a little bit about like, what to expect when someone like, books you for that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so hypnosis is very much you are in control of your mind at all times, and that's the biggest fear. And I think that's what a lot of those stage hypnotists have kind of put in people's mind. And then you watch the movie Get Out, and then there's a new movie on Netflix right now called Hypnotic, and these movies kind of portray hypnosis and hypnotherapy in a very negative light, where it makes it seem like somebody else is in control of your mind. With what I do and the way that I was trained, and I'm sure, in the hands of the wrong person, it could be a very negative and detrimental thing. The way I was trained was ethically. And so we don't do that. You are always in control of your own mind. You can open your eyes and stop the process at any moment. But what I do is I take somebody into deep breathing. So we take your mind, we take your brain from, like, normally we are in, we go back and forth between alpha and beta brainwave. Beta is when you're stressed, when you got a lot going on. A lot of us operate in beta most or all of the time. And then we know delta is our sleep state. Well, then there's the theta state. And the theta state is, as you ladies probably know, as psychics and mediums, you have to reach the theta state to reach that intuitive state.
Right.
So what I do is I guide people into a deep theta state, and we do that through breathing and through hypnosis. And the other thing is, with hypnosis, I just want to say real quick, everybody goes into a natural state of hypnosis, in and out throughout the day, every day. When you're driving and you go on autopilot, when you know where you're going and you don't have to pay attention to your Google Maps or Waze, you are on autopilot. Whenever you're driving from point A to point B, and the whole time, like, you don't remember the drive there, but you're, oh, now I'm at my destination. You were in a state of what we call highway hypnosis. When you're deep in the zone, when a musician is sitting at their instrument and playing and they're just in the zone, that is hypnosis. So writers, same thing. When you're writing and you're really into what you're doing and all of a sudden hours go by, that is also hypnosis. So we all go in and out of states of hypnosis throughout the day. So really, it's not anything to be scared of. It's just these shows and movies have turned it into a scare gimmick. So I will guide people into a deep theta state of mind. We get the theta brainwaves active. And from there, we can access the subconscious, because our mind has three parts. We have the conscious mind, the critical mind, and the subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is what we operate in all the time. Then we have our critical mind, which acts as the bouncer. So, for example, if we have somebody who is a heavy smoker and they keep telling themselves they want to quit smoking, that critical mind, yet they're telling themselves they want to quit, but yet they're not able to quit. And we've all either been this person or known someone who was this person, because, and that's why I'm using cigarettes and smoking, because that's a really hard habit to break. So we'll tell ourselves, all the reasons why we need to quit. It's bad for our health. It makes us smell bad. It's expensive. We can go through all the logical reasons. The reality is we have a bouncer in our brain, and that is the critical mind. And the critical mind says, no, we're not going to quit, because we're used to it, because it's our stress reliever, because it's our habit, because if we don't quit, we're going to kill everybody when we go on break, So when we go into hypnosis, we're bypassing that critical mind, we're bypassing that bouncer, and we're going directly into the subconscious. And then we're reprogramming or tapping into our subconscious memories, which that's where our past life memory is stored. So
can I ask you a question? So with past life now, do you believe, and I'm going to throw this to everybody, but we'll start with you, Jackie, and then Sheena, I want to hear from you and Renee. I want to know what you think past life is, because I've talked to different people about this, because some people, don't believe in reincarnation. Some people think that past life is actually sort of like like an ancestor memory. So it's like not that you lived the life, that an ancestor lived the life, and it's somehow some sort of like archival memory in your system. But then some people, of course, believe in reincarnation, and it was actually your soul that had a different life. So Jackie, which do you think it is?
I think I think it could be all of it. I don't believe in limitations, and I believe that I also believe in all time is happening now. So is it the past? Is it the present? Is it the future? In fact, the person I gave a past life regression book to today, I gave Many Lives, Many Masters. This is the first book I read on it. And he asked me, what about future lives? Can you jump into a future life? And when I was in training, we learned absolutely, yes, you can, because if you believe that all time is now, then yes. And I do believe you can heal ancestral traumas as well through past life therapies. So it's funny, because a lot of my clients just want to explore a past life and they're not looking for the therapeutic aspect. But I believe one of the things that my ex-husband was so against all of this. He would like try to rain on all of my parades, and this was a big one. And he would always say to me, well, all of that stuff is fake. And my response was always, well, whether it's fake, whether it's confabulation or imagination, what I do know is that it actually works. So there was a client that Brian Weiss wrote about in his book that had a fear of drowning. After her past life regression, she no longer had fear of drowning. So if it actually worked to take her fear and phobia away, and now she's able to swim and her anxiety is gone, then does it matter if it was confabulation or if it was real? Because it worked.
Exactly. Now, Sheena, I want to throw it to you. Have you
Sure.
had past life experiences, and do you think it's
Oh, God, yeah.
reincarnation? Do you think it's ancestors? Like, what do you think?
I do believe in ancestral stuff in a lot of cases, but I'm a firm reincarnationist. To me, it's the only thing that makes sense. And I started having past life memories when I was 5, and then I had another huge area of them when I was 13. So I've always been about finding out about past lives, and some of them I think stick very hard with you. Some of them don't. They're more like a deja vu almost. Some of them I think maybe you didn't work through what you need to work through, so that life is very firmly implanted and embedded in you. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's the only thing that makes sense. And I think sometimes your ancestral lineage can even be you. You can be one of your ancestors sometimes. Not always, but sometimes. And reincarnation to me is one of the most, finding out about past lives and accepting reincarnation is one of the most healing things, because you learn so much about yourself as a soul. Because really this, right, that we're in right now, it's just a school uniform in this semester of Soul University. You know what I mean? It's not real. It's just, this is just a class we're taking for 100 years. Who we really are is who we are at home. So knowing where your soul has been and where your soul has been up until now and where your soul is going, to me, is one of the most beautiful and freeing things that you can discover. Now, I also agree with Jackie that all time is relevant, and it could be now, it could be the future. It's a matrix. You go this way and it's one dimension. You go this way, it's another. Absolutely. But I think that's a lot to throw at somebody at once. I think the idea of linear reincarnation is a good place to start, to understand that your soul is on a journey, and it's been many places, it's been many species, it's been many genders, it's been in many situations, to kind of help you understand that there is more to you than just what's happened in this life. Because this is just a little blip on the timeline, you know?
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, she froze.
Now, the past life.
I'm sorry?
I was going to say, Renee, can you guys hear me still?
Yeah, now we can. Now
All
we
right,
can.
I think I got a little blip for a second there. That's just, again, spirit saying, hey, how you doing? So Renee, so what do you think? Like, for you, what is, do you believe in reincarnation? Do you think it's all ancestors? Do you think it's a blend? What do you think?
So no one has said anything that I disagree with. So, I mean, I think that when we're looking at the psychic realms, at the mystical realms, like, it really is anything is possible. Like Sheena, I had, weird things happen when I was young. I mean, when I was a baby, I don't remember this. My sister told me, because we shared a room, but I was like 3 years old. And in my sleep, for like a couple nights in a row, I kept saying, free my people, which is like, 3-year-olds don't do that. And so to me, I'm like, that must be a past life thing. And I think that, the more emotionally mature someone is, it tends to be a symptom of having a lot of past lives, because I do think that, like, we are working through karma. We are, trying to evolve our souls and become a more compassionate, understanding, loving human, but without someone who's going to, like, take a bunch of crap. You know what I mean? And so there's this balance that we have to reach when it comes to, like, being compassionate without sacrificing our own needs and, protecting ourselves, which is, I think, as much of a struggle. I mean, that's a huge struggle for empaths. So it's almost this cosmic joke where, like, we've had a lot of past lives, and as we've had more past lives, our intuition, gets bigger and bigger. But as our intuition grows, so does, our ability to set boundaries shrinks, because we feel ourselves rejecting other people. So if someone asks us to do something, there's a fear to say no, because we will feel their disappointment. And so there's almost like this not intuitive, but there's almost this impulse to just give in to people so we don't have to feel the rejection. And so I think a lot of working with past life karma and understanding how we sort of become a whole soul is not just this, oh, we have to go to love and light, oh, we have to go to compassion. It's like, how do I do this without sacrificing myself? But I mean, even in astrology, there are things that you can look at that give you information about your past life. If you look at your South Node, this is sort of your past life stuff. This is information that you came into this world knowing. So for instance, my South Node is in Libra, which is a very love, relationship-oriented place for the South Node to be. My North Node is in Aries, which is about asserting yourself and, you know, not giving yourself completely to relationships. And what happens with the South Node and the North Node is the South Node is a lot of the mistakes we make as a teenager, early adults. And I totally gave too much of myself to relationships in the past. And so part of my karma was that I had to learn how to assert myself, how to put myself forward, you know, how taking care of myself is not selfish. And so everyone will have, you know, a North Node and a South Node placement. And it's important to look at where those are, because the idea of your North and South Node is that your South Node is what you're supposed to be releasing. Your North Node is what you're supposed to be moving towards. And if you don't evolve towards your North Node, your soul gets torn apart, which I think leads into, you know, there are some Eastern cultures that believe in soul death, where it's like, if you stop evolving, if you continue to devolve, and if you refuse to learn lessons, then you're out. And so it's important that we, you know, check in with ourselves, but also figure out, you know, how do we be good people in society without, you know, flushing ourselves down the toilet.
Right. I'm so glad that you brought in, we have an update from George again. But, you know, I'm glad that you brought in the astrology, because I was going to ask you that, like, how does astrology come into play with all of this stuff? And, you know, and how can we use, you know, you've said some of it. Now, can you know,
Well, this is frozen and their dog noises. I don't know.
Somebody's not happy. I thought when my kitten crawled all over me, it was going to be the end of the broadcast.
Like, we have someone new joining us. Ken, are you there?
Hi, Ken.
I am here.
How was your Halloween?
It was outstanding. I just wanted to pop in really quick, say happy Halloween to all you ladies, and to you too, Uncle Fester, if you're back there again.
we can probably allow him back, you know.
Yeah, I suppose so. And yep, there he is. Uncle Fester, how you doing, buddy?
It's not Uncle Fester, it's Dr. Evil.
And
Mrs.
I see.
Bigglesworth. I have Mrs.
Yeah, I
Bigglesworth
decided
with me
tonight to go as Patriots coach Bill Belichick, and I got the hoodie up here, and I can be grumpy and non-communicative and yet still be in character.
Wait a minute. What happened to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? That's what you told me you were going as.
Yeah, copyright issues, man.
Oh, I understand. They'll be working.
Copyright issues. But a happy Halloween to all of you ladies. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Yes. And, you know, taking up for the slacker, and to everybody in chat, everybody on KGRA Digital. Happy Halloween. I hope it was safe and you got lots of candy.
And let you know also, Ken spent the weekend at the Conjuring House doing an investigation. And we'll be talking about that in just a couple of weeks when we do the post-mortem show with all the parties involved with regards to that. And some interesting stories coming from that. So we'll see what happens. So, so we appreciate it, Ken. You can stick with us if you want. We don't have to kick you away. It depends on whether or not you got to go through. You got to sort your candy out. Is that what you got to do?
No, nothing like that. I am actually going to cede the stage to these wonderful women, and I listened a little bit to what's going on, and I don't want to intercede in that. So I'm going to hang backstage and just kind of let them do their thing and educate me a little bit tonight, because it's been fascinating conversation. And hopefully you folks will take advantage of calling in. I don't know if we've had calls now, but please, if you have any questions for any of these women, please do so. So with
Yeah.
that, George, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Ken. And Ken, feel free if you want to scroll through the chat. There were questions in chat, but I asked people if they wanted to, they could go ahead and call in with those questions. But if you want to scroll back up and post them, feel free. Before we get to that, ladies, what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about collective consciousness. And with regards to that, I'll set up the scenario and want you to observe. Now, have I had intuitive experiences myself? Yes. I think, again, you do this enough, you hone that skill. Things just tend to happen over time. For me, it wasn't something that I was aware of until I started doing paranormal investigating, started working with mediums and intuitives, and they kind of held my hand to get to that point in time. So we started doing something, I'd say probably about 7 or 8 years ago, where we would do these experiments in large groups of people, 8, 10, 12, 15 people. We even did it at the Pain House with Ken DaCosta's group and Cody and Satori. And, you know, we did really well, about 85% success with regards to this. Basically, what we would do is have everybody kind of close their eyes and focus in on the energies in the room and then describe the stories that the spirits would be telling them. So just recently, we did one with a good friend of ours, Alyssa Phoenix. We did this actually on TikTok. She's a TikTok sensation and said, yeah, I'd be happy to. So we did this a little bit different. Normally, when we did these experiments, it was at the locations. So everything's right there. But it's kind of a cheat if anybody going there knew about the history of the location or did an investigation there prior. So in this particular case, Alyssa and 2 of her friends who were off camera were all given notepads. And I had sent a spirit that I've worked with before, Amanda, who was a team member who had passed, who had crossed over and has been communicating ever since, along with a few other guardians that I call them that stay with me regularly. So here we are on TikTok. I send them mentally to a place they'd never been to before, a place in the middle of the Ocala National Forest here in Florida, a place called Kerr City, Kerr. And tell me what the surroundings look like. Tell me what your experiences are. And here's the results. Take a look. I want you to absolutely focus on the experience. Ask them to show you their story. First of all, how many spirits did you encounter?
In the beginning, when you first did the first spirit, it was only 1. And then in the last part, it was 3, like 2.5. Like 1 wasn't really showing itself. Mercedes says she saw a woman, brown hair, and old clothes. And then a man, but she couldn't really get a description.
And Holly?
You said it was like a woman and then a male that was in his 30s. And you said you saw that how did you describe his clothing? Big white t-shirt, chain on his neck. But originally when it first started, I saw like a woman probably around 40s, 50s, and she was sleeping underneath a white blanket. And it was like she was peacefully sleeping. But then I kept seeing like this little girl looking. But then I saw basically like the little girl was peering through a door, and then it went back to the woman sleeping, and I saw an unknown man, like, I guess, choke her, when basically all of a sudden it goes back and the little girl was holding the hand of someone, and I couldn't see what that person was. I couldn't see who the person was that she was holding the hand of. But the little girl was just staying silent, and it was almost as if she witnessed it. So I felt like she probably witnessed it but didn't want to say anything.
Okay, are you ready?
Uh-huh.
The young lady who ran that was named Alana. You can touch it, it's too close to me. Now, Alana had a room downstairs. She lived on the property. The room that we eventually deemed as the murder room. The man you encountered, we named Mr. Nasty because he will not physically show himself completely to us either. He stays in the shadows. What basically happened was that she was asleep under the white sheet in her bed, and out of jealousy, because she was in a relationship with someone else, Mr. Nasty killed her. Who also viewed this was the little girl, Becca. So he also killed Becca.
Wow. Do you guys hear that? Is that Dustin? Do you guys hear that? Yeah.
That voice?
It was a double homicide in this post office.
Wow.
Wow.
These three women never heard of this place, never knew this place. And yet, with this connection with Alana, or Amanda rather, going to Curse City and showing them, almost like an astral projection, going to this place and connecting. When we do this, when we've tried this experiment time and again, the one question, and this probably is hitting Melissa right now because this is fresh from yesterday, is, were you afraid? Because when people go into these haunted locations, that's the first thought process is, oh, I'm going to get touched, I'm going to get scratched, slapped, whatever it may be. I'm going to freak out if I see a shadow. When they connected, they said, no, I felt sad or I felt angry. They, almost as an empath, were relaying the emotions of the spirits they were connecting with. Is this a direction that you think we need more so as a field to go through to dispel this whole notion of fear cells, when this other side, which is so many other emotions, including joy, is kind of missed out? But when you make that kind of connection, people understand these are just people. Melissa?
Wow, that's a good question. Sometimes I think fear is healthy, you know, just because there are things out there that we have ideas of what they are, but we don't really know what they are, and they're probably not human. You know what I mean? So I feel like sometimes we need to have a little bit of fear, just in so far, you know, not so much that you can't function, but a healthy fear, so that, you know, if you do get an, you know, maybe you're at a location and you get a vibe, and it's different than the norm. You know what I mean? It's not the headache and the nausea and the hair on end. There's something. There's that otherness where, you know, you feel like, wait a minute, if I stay here, it's going to be bad. But that's a small percentage. Do you know what I mean? Like, most of it, I feel, is the, you know, what you're talking about. So I don't know. Sheena, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, like in your instance, Melissa, talking about what happened to you with Sharon Tate, every account of Sharon Tate was that she herself was a very open, very emotional, and perhaps even a very psychically gifted person. There are many accounts of people who go, if you go near, like even the street, Cielo Drive, right? I've been to my pal David Oman's house up there a lot. She comes and visits people. I think some spirits are more apt to reach out and communicate with you if they have something to say. I think in this instance, with the clip that you showed, George, you know, here is somebody who wants people to know she was murdered and why. Here is a child who witnessed it that's in trauma. I think that most gifted psychics can get something, but I think some spirits literally reach out like they're almost in your real life and they're viscerally right in front of you and they're kind of screaming their story at you. And oftentimes, like in the case of Sharon Tate, I really believe she visits people because she doesn't want what happened to her to happen to anyone else. And I think there is a beyond the grave consciousness with many spirits. Whether they are at rest or they're not at rest. Sometimes they're perfectly at rest, but they still come back here because they have a message to share. And I think that, yeah, when something is very visceral for any living thing that passed, not of its own accord oftentimes, yeah, they want to come and contact you and literally tell you their story. And it's the job of the medium to just repeat the story in the same way that you could be in line at the grocery store and somebody could turn around and say, oh my God, I heard this story, and tell it to you. And then you remember it and you tell other people. The only difference is that the person at the grocery store is not living. But there's a very, especially tonight, there's a very, very thin veil between this world and the next. So yeah, I think that's a wonderful story. And I feel as she was telling that story, and as you were telling her the reality of the evidence you caught, I myself could feel all of those people, even the nasty one, just sort of reaching out from beyond, trying to have their story be told. Does that make sense?
It does. And it makes me wonder again, Jackie, I pose this to you. Is it almost in a sense that the telephone game, but people connect? Maybe of the three women that were there that were reading into this, I gave them this suggestion that my former team member Amanda is connecting with them. I give them the suggestion that she's taking them to this place in Ocala National Forest. That's the end of the detail I gave them. But yet, if one was intuitive, was she broadcasting to the others? Or again, do we all have this innate ability? And if we practice it or focus enough, we can activate that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Suggestions are very powerful, but I do believe that we all have the innate intuition. Some of us tap into it and some of us don't. I think that's the only difference. Is some people, it's like a sense, right? So some people have a really strong sense of smell and some people don't. Some people have a really good sense of hearing. Others, are hard of hearing. So I think it's just like another sense, and we can definitely hone in on it and tap into it.
There's something that I wanted. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say you had mentioned something too about someone sort of like making someone else have more abilities. So let me try to explain what I'm trying to say. So I notice sometimes when I'm doing seances that people who show up to my house for the seance. Did you lose me? No.
You're
okay. Good. Am I back? Okay. So when I'm, sometimes when I'm doing a seance, there are people around me. They don't call themselves psychics. They even sometimes will say that they don't even have those types of experiences. They're there to see what happens. And then when they're sitting at the table with me, all of a sudden they have psychic ability. All of a sudden they can hear the spirits. All of a sudden they can see them. And for a long time, I didn't think that it had anything to do with me. But then I've sat in seance with both Renee and Sheena. And, when I've noticed even just pulling in Sheena or pulling in Renee, then it's even stronger. It's like because we've got 2 or 3 psychic mediums at the table, we've boosted, we've called in even more spirits. And we're boosting everybody. Everyone that's sitting at that table suddenly feels like a medium, and it's so cool.
I also think that, with the seances, I think that, also, we open seances, we do a meditation, we have people at the table open their third eyes and become more receptive. So I think that also plays a role, but I definitely think that, our psychic energy amplifies things. But I also think that, there are people who are getting messages that talk themselves out of it.
Oh, yeah.
And the important thing to remember when you're doing any psychic reading is to have zero expectations about what's going to come through. I mean, I had, and I've told Melissa this story, but I had just this one psychic reading that will always stick with me, where this woman sat down in my chair across from me and a voice just tuned in behind me. And I mean, right after I said hello, I was like, you have a UTI and it's going to turn into a kidney infection if you don't get it taken care of. And she was like, I just was at the doctor right before I came here, and it is a kidney infection. And I was like, great, what do you want to talk about? And so they have no business saying that to a stranger. Who says that to someone they just met? But you just have to not question it, because stopping yourself from saying something is your ego. Right. It's your ego saying, I don't want to look wrong. I don't want to look stupid. So you have to not worry about how you're going to look, how crazy it sounds. If it's there, it's a message. You just got to let it go through you.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
Looks like Ken has a couple of questions he's found in the chat. Mike Pelletier said, question for George, is there any place that for the time being, I would not investigate. The woods, because of the bugs and the spiders, and I've seen too many paranormal investigators that actually are outside investigating, and there are so many contaminants. It's not even, if you're doing it from an equipment standpoint, it's not worth it. If you're looking from an evidentiary standpoint, it's not worth it. If you're experiencing things from your own senses, absolutely, that's perfectly fine. But otherwise, that's the only place. Internally, any place, so long as it's not the summertime and it's the South. So, what else we got as far as questions, Ken? We up to date right there? We got about 10 minutes left in the show here. And first of all, I have to say, I'm scared because we might have some competition here, Ken. These ladies could take over the internet with their knowledge and their grace and their intellect and their talent, this experience. I got to say this, Jackie. A while back, when we were talking about past life regression, there were two separate intuitive psychics who both nailed me with a past life regression of a paladin, a religious knight. The first one who mentioned it had said that's one of the reasons why when you go in and investigate, there's never a situation where you're attacked and the spirits sometimes tend to leave, is that you've got this past history fighting negativity. So I found that interesting that two different psychics came up with that same decision on that, because I would have easily nailed myself as a court jester. So I'm not sure.
What's interesting is that a lot of times you come into this life or your present life with some of the same talents or skill sets that you had in past lives. Like one of my kids is a musician. He started playing Beethoven by ear when he was 6 years old. And it was, and he can pick up any instrument, guitar, piano, bass, it doesn't matter. He can pick up anything and he just learns it really well. I have another son he's an amazing chef. He actually read the past life regression book, Many Lives, Many Masters, my favorite book. And he, after that, was like, I want to do a past life regression. This was a few years ago. He saw himself as a chef. And what's funny is this kid loves to cook. And he sometimes schools me on cooking. And, so there's times where you do come into your present life and carry over what you did in a past life. So if you have some talents that you're really, really good at, chances are you've been honing that skill for several lifetimes.
It's true. I mean, I'm only 5'9", and yet I intimidate the hell out of Ken. So, I carry that from being a paladin.
Yeah.
It's
amazing. I mean, that's one of the other really past lives are fascinating to me, and that's why I love hearing people's stories. I love doing regressions. I love hearing people's stories and then connecting the dots to how it fits into their present life.
Well, I would say, especially the fact that we didn't get Ken towards the end of the night, that Jackie and Renee, we would love to have both of you come back and join us for individual interviews and discussions. Sheena, we are coming to join you on Tuesday if you want to tell everybody about that and all your other contact information.
Sure. I have 2 shows I do syndicated for iHeartRadio, and you're going to be on my Haunted Playground show on Tuesday. And then also I do another weekly show for them, Raising the Vibration. I'm the founder of a peace, love, kindness, and unity nonprofit, raisingthevibration.org, trying to bring more peace and love and kindness and unity into the world and more vibrational uplift. So those are my 2 radio gigs right now that I love. More coming soon, setting more things up as we speak. I had a shift in venue during COVID, as many of us have. So I'm excited about being in this new place and being part of the iHeartRadio family, part of the Live Paranormal family. You can find me at sheenametalspiritual.com. That is the best place to find me. I'm always doing things, webinars. I'm obsessed with crystals. I'm kind of a rock hound, or as I like to say, a stoner. You can find out about crystals. I do all kinds of services for folks. I work with a lot of clients wherever you are in the world. If you need help, find me. Please check out the nonprofit. I'm also an interfaith minister. and I do I'm pastor at a church in Hollywood. I do Saturday Night Spiritual once a month on a Saturday there, and that's fun. I love being a minister and helping people and reaching people. It's something I never thought I would do, but when Spirit speaks, the answer is always yes. So I said okay, and I just try to stay in service. And I'm sure once we get past the pandemic, my artistic life will come back. But right now, I'm just full bore spiritual, helping those that need to be helped, and loving doing 2 radio shows a week and 3 video broadcasts a week, and loving being here with you, and excited to have you both on my show. And I'm everywhere on social media, just at Sheena Metal. I may be the only Sheena Metal there is. It's a little bizarre. So please find me and say hello. I would love that. Just stay in touch.
Will do.
I of course, as we get down to the final 6 or 7 minutes of the show, we've got finally a caller, but we're going to bring them on. They've been waiting, Ken.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions here, but we've got a caller on hold. Ronald from Minnesota, you are on Dead Air. What's your question tonight, sir?
How you doing? Great show, you guys, and the women really spark up the show for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
And, not trying to win any points here, I'm just saying, you know. Anyway, the question I have for you is, do you think that there's any scientific evidence of a higher source of energy during, like, you know, Halloween, of course, you know, but like throughout the year? Is there scientific evidence or any place where you might go where it might be more higher, you know, pretty activity than anywhere else? You know, like some places don't have anything, some places have more. Sometimes of the year there's more activity than others. Is there scientific evidence that you can actually label that as a situation?
Okay, because we're up against time, Ronald, we're going to hang you up and you can listen to their answer.
All right.
Ladies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, there certainly are energy centers, right? I don't want to jump on anybody, but nobody was talking, so I started.
No, I was going to say, Sheena, please talk, because I know you know about ley lines and things like that.
Right, places like Sedona, like Taos, like Machu Picchu, Lourdes. I mean, there are places all over the St. Bridget's healing fountains in Qwillery. I mean, there are all kinds of places all over the world where there is spiritual intensity. My mom grew up in upstate New York in the Hudson River Valley. We now know that's a major hub for UFO activity. She's been telling me that my whole life. Even in the 40s, there were UFOs everywhere. So I think there are areas that draw in energy here in Los Angeles where, I don't know where you are, Jackie, but where Melissa and Renee and I are. I mean, people always say the entertainment industry brings the energy. I believe the energy in the ground here brought the entertainment industry.
Yes.
So yeah, there are many places that, look at Alaska, right? More UFO sightings than anywhere else. So there is energy everywhere.
Yeah, I just recently went to Mount Shasta and did like a Reiki retreat there, and I was hoping to get my friend Natalie on tonight too, but I can't find her. But but we were in Mount Shasta and we had some crazy activity up there. You know, like very alien and UFO-y, and it's just, you know, it's more intense there.
Sure,
and
Joshua Tree. I just shot a film there. Intense.
Yeah, Newgrange is another place that I went to, and I went, you know, inside of Newgrange, and it was, my whole body was vibing. Like I was literally just like it was so intense, and it was cold, so I took my glove off and I stuck my hand on the wall, and I felt such crazy energy there, you know, and it was way stronger than other places. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think when we're looking at times, and I mean, you know, also, I think it's worth being said that you've asked for scientific evidence. Like everything we do is fringe science. So you got to take what's considered scientific with a grain of salt. But I mean, when we're looking at times, if you want to look at, you know, if you want to talk to a police officer or someone who works in an emergency room or fireman, full moons and eclipses, it's crazy. And, you know, so it's sort of like what you can piece together based off what are reports. Where are more UFO sightings reported? Where are there more healing centers? And so we don't have a cohesive scientific industry, and people in the paranormal world are trying to, you know, to change that. But it kind of is, you know, what you consider scientific or not at this point.
Right. Well, and this
science, but also like, is it, you know?
Right. And really quickly, when I was in Newgrange, I mentioned to the tour guide, I said, you know, why are like the rocks vibrating? Like, what's, you know, have you done anything to figure that out? You know? And she said, actually, we had geologists come out and run seismic, you know, they're trying to one read it seismically, but then two, they use some kind of sonar or something to go into the ground to see if they could find a reason, like an actual like geological reason for the vibrations. They could find nothing. There was nothing geological that was causing it.
I've heard of that. And you know what? The scientific community tends to have this rule of thumb where if it's paranormal, it's actually unexplained.
Right.
And so that's another reason where we end up being like, well, we're just always going to be the crazy people.
That's why I always
being a crazy person.
I always throw that same notion out to scientists all the time. Remember the word science as we know it. And that's the biggest thing until they learn more on it. We are up against the clock. We've got about 30 seconds left. I'm going to say this in this form. I think I can retire. You guys did a phenomenal job tonight. And as far as all the link information, how to reach all these wonderful ladies, we've been scrolling that across the bottom all night. So when you go back to rewatch this show and you want to connect with any one of our wonderful guests tonight, please, at that point in time, reach out because they are here to help in the paranormal field. That's why we had them on the show, and that's why we love them so much joining us this evening. Please, girls, do not log off when Bill plays the closing to this also, because we'd love to talk to you for a second afterwards. I'm sure Bill would as well. But I want to thank all of you guys. Thank you so much again for watching us. We'll see you next Sunday, same time, same channel. You're watching Dead Air Full Spectrum here on YouTube and KGRA Digital Broadcasting. Have a great night.